Hello, and welcome to
Papi Approved Movies.
My name is Papi.
And I'm Natalie.
In our podcast, we'll review and critique my favorite PG-13 movies.
Movies that I wasn't allowed to watch until I turned 13.
Every other week, Natalie and I will watch a new PG-13 movie.
And I'll see if Papi's movies live up to the hype.
Which, of course, they will.
Today we're going to be watching Catch Me If You Can.
Before we begin, there will be spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie and don't want it to be spoiled,
Press pause and come back when you're finished. Now, Papi, tell me the dates on this movie.
Hello, Natalie.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good.
You ready to talk about this movie?
Mm-hmm.
Catch Me If You Can came out in 2002 with a runtime of 2 hours and 21 minutes. It's streaming on Paramount+. It was written by Frank Abagnale Jr. and directed by Steven Spielberg. The main stars are Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks, and Christopher Walken. Fun fact, this movie is based on the book written by Frank Abagnale Jr., so the guy who the movie is about. So what did you think of the movie?
I thought it was alright.
Okay. Just alright?
Yeah.
I thought you would have liked it because it was like an emotional factor. It wasn't a boring action movie. It wasn't very funny overall. I thought maybe you would have enjoyed it. What do you rate it?
I was getting confused with all the flashback and flash forward and all that.
Sure. A little bit extra, right?
It's a little convoluted, I thought.
Yeah. All right, so what do you rate it after all?
I give it a 3.5 stars. I don't really like Leonardo DiCaprio.
I thought he was good in this movie.
I just don't think I like him. Why don't we get into the recap?
Okay. The movie begins in a French prison in 1969. Carl, an FBI agent, visits Frank to extradite him into the U.S. for forging checks. Frank is deathly ill and tries to escape, but is caught immediately. We flash back to young Frank watching his father, Frank Sr., get an award at a Rotary Club. His father runs a little store. Frank looks up to his dad. It's Christmas and Frank listens to his father talk about how he and Paula, Frank's mom, met in France. They dance and Frank looks on happily. I thought that part was kind of cute because Frank really loves his parents. And he was happy at home and they seemed to be happy. Things would go down really quickly, but like he always wanted that again. I think that was kind of like a sad thing because he didn't get that.
Yeah.
Frank Sr. takes Frank to get a suit. He charms the cashier to let him borrow it instead of buying it. Frank pretends to be his chauffeur and takes his dad to different banks in the city in search of a loan to pay his back taxes. Senior is rejected at every bank and has to sell their car and their home. The family has to move into a small apartment. That's kind of sad, right?
Yeah. I don't really understand what he does.
He's a store owner.
Well, I never understood what his store was.
It was a stationery store in real life. I'm not sure what it was in the movie. But he goes there and he owes money to the government. So a lot of the times you could decide not to pay your taxes. So if you don't pay your taxes, they come after you and they fine you. And eventually they'll get their money because the government gets their money. But he had a lot of back taxes he owed. So he wanted to get a loan to pay it off. It never worked out for him because the store got closed. On Frank's 16th birthday, his dad opens a checking account in his name with $25. Since the move, Frank has to go to a new school, and he gets picked on by a bully immediately. Then Frank takes the opportunity and pretends to be a substitute teacher in one of his classes. It goes on for a week before he's caught. The principal calls mom and dad in. And dad's a little proud when he hears the news.
I think it's more funny is how the two bullies, one was like your classic movie bully, and then the other was like your classic movie nerd, like glasses with like the tape in the middle and suspenders. Like it's funny that he was the outsider here.
Yeah, and this is maybe 1969, 1970, at that time. And he's the one that didn't fit in, even though he's like classically handsome guy, You'd think he'd be cool, but oh no, he had a uniform on.
Yeah, from his old school.
So he was probably getting teased because he was wearing a private school uniform at a public school. I mean, don't you think that would get teased?
I just think it was the fact that he was dressed up.
Yeah, that's true. And then, of course, the bully was in the class and he was able to get back at him a little bit. Frank comes home from school one day and sees a man come out of his mother's bedroom. The mom nervously asks him not to say anything to his dad. Not much later, the mom gets a lawyer and tells Frank that she and her dad are getting divorced. She asks Frank to decide who he wants to live with. But Frank can't, and he runs away. That part was kind of sad, but then what would you do in that case anyway? I don't think you should put someone on the spot to fill out a paperwork right then and there to decide, but...
Isn't there whole, like, custody battles and stuff?
Yeah, but I think maybe the dad was willing to forego it. Or maybe he's at that certain age where he can choose where he wants to go. You know, this is a different time, so... But I don't know. That'd be a tough one, like, you have to decide your mom or your dad. You would think one of them would be like, you know what, go with your mom because I want you to take care of her. Or, well, go with your dad. He needs you more than me. Or something, you know. Someone would be selfless. And even Frank Sr., he didn't ask, go ahead and come with me. He even said, like, well, you decide whatever you want. And I'm okay with it kind of thing.
I don't know. It kind of gave off like, oh, we don't really care who you go with. Like, it's like they didn't want him.
Is that what you thought? That how you felt that scene played out?
Yeah, I felt like it was like, just pick whatever. Like, we don't really care.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. It just seems like a really difficult position to put a child in.
It feels like they put it on him because they didn't seem to care that much about like who he'd be with.
Well, maybe they didn't want to fight anymore and they both wanted him. I think it might be the right thing to do for a 16-year-old to ask him or her where they would want to go. I mean, I guess you're going to be 16 soon. Is that what you think would be the right choice for a couple to make? Like if we said, Mom and I are breaking up, who are you going to go with? You would prefer that, or you would prefer like you're going with Mom because that's the rule?
I probably prefer the rule thing.
So that way you don't have to make a decision.
Yeah. But then like if I think of his situation, he probably has some built up resentment for his mom because she kind of tore the marriage apart with cheating on him.
Yeah.
And he really admires his dad. So maybe in his situation, he'd be like, well, she tore this family apart. Like, I'm going to go with my dad. I look up to him. I'll just go with him because I might still be mad at my mom right now.
You know,
for all that happened.
And he doesn't decide. He ends up running away. You're right. Why doesn't he go with his dad? He looks up to his dad. And then he sees that his mom is...
the cause of the problem.
Yeah, a cheater. And so you think maybe you'd go with dad, but I don't know. It's kind of a tough situation. Because she ends up running away with his friend. She ends up remarrying to the dad's friend. The one she was cheating on with. I don't know. I think I would probably go with the dad, but I guess he just... too much pressure at the time. He needed to leave. Frank buys the train ticket using his new checking book. He uses his checkbook to pay for his hotel as well, but is eventually thrown out when the checks don't clear. As he leaves, he sees a Pan Am pilot and a stewardess and likes the attention they get. Next, Frank poses as a school reporter and goes to an airline executive to learn all about the industry. Then he finagles his way into getting a pilot uniform. He wears it around and everyone gives him respect. He starts forging Pan Am checks and cashing them, making tons of money. Frank goes to the TWA counter at the airport and the lady lets him fly on the plane for free. During the flight, he hooks up with a stewardess. Inappropriate! Frank starts getting free rides from other airlines and goes city to city cashing fake checks. He romances a bank teller and learns all about bank routing numbers. He buys a bank machine to create more counterfeit checks that take longer to track down as a fake. Meanwhile, Carl at the FBI is on to Frank. Alright, what'd you think of all that?
I thought it didn't make sense because he didn't know how to fly a plane.
No, but he never flew one. He always went to the other airlines where they would give him free rides. You see what I'm saying? He never actually went to Pan Am where he was supposed to be a pilot. He went to other airlines to get free rides because they give pilots free rides. That's pretty smart. He thought it through. Frank is now rich and takes his dad to dinner. He gives him a Cadillac, but his dad won't accept it. Frank tells his dad he's wealthy and he can help out so that way he and his mom can get back together. Frank's dad's too proud and he won't accept the money. Once again, kind of sad. He still has that dream that the mom and dad could be together.
I don't really understand understand that. Because isn't she with the other guy?
He doesn't know that at that time. Actually, we don't either. We find out they're together later.
Oh.
We find out that they get married later. But he thinks that the reason mom broke up with him is because, he's broke. He doesn't have any money. He can't take care of things. They got moved to a small house as opposed to having the big house they had before, So I think that's what he thinks. Maybe if he has enough money, then the mom will come back.
But he knew about all the cheating stuff.
Once again, I think maybe he thought the mom was cheating or looking for it from somewhere else because he didn't have any money. She didn't have any life security and she was just trying to take care of herself.
I guess so. I don't think it makes much sense.
No, it doesn't. He's kind of disillusioned, right? I feel like he is, I don't know, he's lost a little bit. He's just hoping things were going to go his way. Carl and some agents track down Frank in Hollywood. Carl goes to the hotel room and Frank poses as a CIA agent. He says that he's already captured the counterfeiter and his partner has him in custody. Carl's dubious and asks for his badge. Frank gives him his wallet but distracts him from looking at it. Then Frank takes off. Carl gets a weird feeling, looks at the wallet, and finds out he's been duped and it's full of trash.
I don't know why he would ask for the wallet if he wasn't going to open it.
Well, he started to talk to him. He's like, let me see your badge. He's like, here it is. And then you start talking, and then he just didn't think to look at it because at that point, he got fooled. He thought that Frank was really a CIA agent. He was like playing it off pretty well. Frank calls Carl on Christmas Eve to apologize. Carl mocks him, saying he only called because he's lonely. Frank hangs up angrily. From the conversation, Carl surmises that Frank is a minor. He starts looking at missing persons reports from the area where the first fake checks were written. It eventually leads him to Frank's mother's house.
I don't understand why he thinks that he automatically assumes it's a child.
Yeah, there's 2 times, both phone calls. Carl gets something out of the phone call that is so important for him to actually solve the case. And they kind of explain it, but not really. Why did you think it was a minor?
Because of the comic thing.
Oh, yeah.
He says he's reading a name and it's
when
the Flash's name.
Yeah, when he pretends to be the CIA agent, he uses the Flash's name. So that's why he thinks it's a kid because it's named after a comic book character.
But I feel like comics, there was a bunch of people that were
not then. Not then. It was only kids back then.
Oh,
you didn't see many adults reading comics.
Because now I would think that I don't think kids read comics. I think that only older people read comics, like collectors and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how many kids actually read comics still. There's not too many kid comics.
There's picture books and graphic novels, but comic books aren't really a thing anymore.
Well, I mean, they're a huge thing. For kids, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think too many kids read comics. I also think that a lot of the comics aren't skewed for teenagers or older. Anyway, so he figures out that he's a kid, goes to Frank's mother's house. She shows him a yearbook and sees that it's Frank's face. He has a real name now. Frank is now living in a huge mansion in Georgia. Someone gets hurt and Frank visits a friend in the hospital and sees Brenda, a nurse. They talk and flirt. He tells the nurse he's a doctor. Frank makes a fake medical degree and resume. He applies to the hospital and gets a job as a night supervisor. That was pretty funny. Carl visits Frank Sr. Sr. makes up a lie to lead Carl off Frank's track, and Carl doesn't believe it. During their conversation, Carl sees a letter from Frank addressed from Georgia. Frank and Brenda are making out, but she doesn't want to hook up. She says she's been kicked out of her house. He tells her he will come with her and be her fiancé to make things right for her parents. Frank meets Brenda's parents. Her dad's a lawyer, and Frank says he's a lawyer too. The dad buys it and welcomes Frank to the family and offers him a job.
Here's an interesting thought.
Okay.
From me.
I'd love to hear it.
Here is where I thought that the story was going to have a twist, and it didn't. I just completely overthought it.
What was it?
So when he starts coming into this family, and he likes his family, and he likes this girl, and he's trying to marry her and stop everything else, I start thinking that's what happened with his dad, and that his dad's name isn't really Frank Abagnale. And, like, I thought that because he shows tendencies earlier in the movie that he's kind of, like, a schemer and a scammer, too.
Yeah.
And that he's, like, proud of his son for, like, doing all the scheming at the school.
Yeah.
And I thought that, like, that wasn't actually him. Like, that was his fake identity, and he, like, made it out. And I thought that it was going to be about how he was able to do it.
I don't know. It's not that kind of movie. I don't know. I didn't see how it would get all crazy and twisted like that.
Because I thought that his name was fake. Because maybe this is an influence from reading another book where there's like a spy. And then we never know his real name. Like every time someone says his real name,
they like
it's
block
like blurred.
It out or
So I always thought like, oh, this isn't like, this guy's not for real. Like this is his identity.
Yeah. The one thing is, did you think he actually liked her? So much so he was going to marry her?
No.
Me neither. I just thought maybe he wanted to hook up with her, you know? But remember, he is a kid. And so, like, he might just really fall in love. You know? So,
yeah.
And I think that's what actually happened. Because, I mean, maybe you'd be like, why don't I go see your parents? And then I will tell them we're engaged. And then we can hook up and everything will be fine. And then I'm not going to actually marry you. But I think he was going to go through with it. Carl gets to Frank's mansion in Georgia. He doesn't find Frank, but sees a fake medical degree. Then he goes to Frank's hospital and finds another dead end. Frank passes the Louisiana bar exam and works as an assistant prosecutor for Brenda's dad. Frank spends time with Brenda's family and it reminds him of his mom and dad. He goes to see his dad, who's a postman now. Frank invites him to his engagement party, says he should bring mom. Senior kind of breaks it to him that his mother remarried, and Frank's hurt. Frank calls Carl again on Christmas. He tells him to stop chasing him. Then Carl thinks to look for an engagement announcement in the newspaper in Louisiana. At the engagement party, the FBI shows up. Frank gets away and tells Brenda to meet him at the Miami airport. He sees her at the airport 2 days later, but she's under surveillance, and he leaves.
You know what confused me? She was supposed to be older than him, and it was like, how old are you? But it was like, I thought back in those days, like, the girl always got married young anyways.
Yeah. So what do you mean?
So, like, you would think that she was probably, like, 18.
Maybe, like, 21. She probably went to college because she was a nurse.
I thought she was just, like, a volunteer because she was in that little strike thing.
Well, she lived on her own. She got kicked out of her house, so she has money somehow. So, I don't know. But I do know that she's probably really young. But they think he's like in his mid to late 20s.
And I thought like the whole, I got my braces off last year. Like, didn't you think that would be a bit of a tip? Yeah,
that she's like 15, 16?
Or that she's like 16, 17, 18. And then the fact that he said that he got his off last year, like, don't you think like, oh, you're young too? Because you just got your braces off.
He was just flirting with her.
I know, but like, we know he didn't have braces because we saw the last few years of his life.
Yeah.
But it's like him saying that he has braces. Like maybe she would have thought like, oh, he's like really young. But I guess the whole like doctor situation.
Yeah. I mean, he's a doctor. Obviously, he has to be. And a lawyer. So obviously, he's got a lot of schooling in. Although we don't know because I think he gets caught at 17. The movie begins on his 16th birthday. So really it's only about a year and a half. I mean, he could have had his braces at 15. We don't know. You got your braces taken off at 15. So who knows? The FBI waits for Frank at the airport. But Frank creates a fake Pan Am stewardess program to recruit beautiful girls to be a distraction so he can get on a plane. And it works. That must have been the best time of his life. Just looking at all the girls, talking to them, flirting with them, and then picking the ones he wanted just to walk into the airport with.
I don't understand because it wasn't he going the next day. How did he do a whole program?
Oh, no, it doesn't mean it was the next day. The FBI could have been there over time. It had to be like 2-3 days later because he put in an announcement. You know the one thing that is kind of like dumb about that? Like, what if he just took a car or a bus or a train? All the FBI and the police were all over the airport. What if he just left it another way? He could have like drove 100 miles and then taken the next airport that's nearby, right? Like, why are they all waiting at that one airport? That's kind of dumb.
Yeah. He could be elsewhere. He could have gone. He could have left. Not just his idea, but like for all the FBI.
Yeah, that's right. He could have just waited. He could have just got a hotel. He had enough cash. He had like 2 suitcases full of money. But no. 7 months later, Frank's working in Europe, cashing checks. Carl figures out that Frank may be in France and goes there on his own dime. On Christmas Eve, Carl finds Frank and tells him to surrender. Carl tells him the French police are there and they are angry and might kill him if he runs. Frank thinks that he's bluffing, but he surrenders anyways. And the police come out and take him into custody. Did you think he was bluffing?
No, because he bet on his daughter.
Yeah, he swore on his daughter's life. You know.
And it was also, at first I was like, I thought he was bluffing because the whole point was that throughout the movie he usually calls on Christmas Eve or Christmas and tells him where he is. And he's always like, I'm not going to get a bunch of officers out like on Christmas Eve. Like they're trying to go home. Like,
that's
we're
why
not
you think he was bluffing. That's the thing. Like, it makes you think, the audience, that he is bluffing. And when they walk out, Frank is like, you got me. You were bluffing. And then the police show up. Like, they're not there immediately. They come like 10 seconds later, which is kind of like, makes you think that maybe he is bluffing. But he wasn't. Carl wasn't bluffing. And then the little Easter egg, the officer who arrests them and puts him in the car is actually the real Frank Abagnale Jr. We go to the present time where Carl's taking Frank home in an airplane. He tells Frank that his father died. Frank's distraught and goes to the bathroom. There he makes his escape through the toilet and the landing gear. They eventually catch up to him at his mother's house, where he finds out he has a little sister. That part made me a little sad.
That part made me the opposite, because he like looks through the window. What? He looks through the window and the little girl like, hi, like she waves. If I was that little girl and there was just some random boy like staring into the window late at night, like I just opened the thing and there's like a little boy's face like staring back at me, I'd be terrified. Like, what is that man doing outside my house just like peering through the window?
Different time. People were friendly back then. Maybe you're just too angry and scared all the time.
That's scary. If you imagine you're just going up to a window, you're eating your cookie or whatever she is eating, and you look through the window and there's someone like staring back at you.
That made me sad because I think the thing he wanted most was a mom and a dad. Like, that was his love. He was so happy when he saw his mom and dad dancing on Christmas Eve. It's all about Christmas. This is a Christmas movie? I don't know. It happens a lot on Christmas, right?
I feel like
I think there's 4 Christmases in this movie. Right? The Christmas that they're putting up the tree. The Christmas, the 2 Christmases that he calls, and then the Christmas that he gets arrested. All he wanted was to have a family and wanted his family to be together. And here he sees his little sister, which he probably would have loved, and then his mom moving on with another man without him.
Well, I thought that's the whole point why he wanted to marry that lady.
Yeah, maybe.
Because the 2 parents were so loving and they were doing the dishes together.
They were singing
happy
together.
Watching them from afar, and he watched movies with them as a family. And he kind of had a family with them all for a bit, and I thought that's why he wanted to marry her, to have that family that they had.
Yeah, but he didn't know when he asked her to marry her. All we knew about that dad was he was a jerk, because the daughter had an abortion, right? And he kicked her out for it. But like, who kicks out their daughter for any reason, right? Like, yeah. I mean, what kind of father is that? So to me, I go like, the only thing you know about this dad is that he's like a scumbucket who's willing to kick out his daughter, probably during her darkest and hardest time, right? And so I go, obviously, he didn't know that when he asked to marry her. But he did love it. But he loved it for himself because after he saw them, he went to see his dad, hoping that maybe mom would go with him to the engagement party and that they could rekindle their love together. So it's something he was never able to get. And the dad knew it was never going to happen. And I think once he saw that the mom was happy with that cheating guy from before, and then he sees the little sister, that part was like soul crushing. So sad. And you were like, what is this stupid child doing saying hi to people?
No, I'm like, why is he like staring through the window like that?
Well, he didn't think she was going to be there. He didn't know she existed. He was just looking at his mom.
Why would he go there anyway?
Maybe to try to get his mom to be back with his dad.
So why wouldn't she just go knock on the door? Like, why are you peering through windows?
Well, he went up, looked through the window, and then that's when he decided not to move forward. That's when he left and they got arrested. Although I think they arrested him before he could do anything. But imagine, don't you want to go to your mom when your things are hard? I think so.
Yeah, and I would have knocked. Hi, mother dearest. I just got back from a French prison. I would like a hug and a meal, por favor.
I would say she wouldn't let him in. With what we know from her and how cold she was towards everybody, I don't think she would have let him in.
Well, she wasn't really cold towards him.
Yeah, maybe not. Frank is sentenced to jail for 12 years. Carl visits him occasionally to ask for work advice. Carl then gets Frank released from jail into his custody if he works for the FBI. Frank accepts it and gets out of jail. Frank goes to work and hates it and thinks of running away. He changes his mind and goes back to work with Carl.
They didn't have like a monitor on him,
the end. I don't know, maybe before monitors. That would have been good. Like an ankle monitor.
House arrest or whatever they call it.
Yeah, but
he's not in his house, but ankle monitor.
Where did he live? Was he living with Carl?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know where he was living during that time. We find out that he ends up, they have little credits at the end. Dude becomes a millionaire. He starts working for firms to spot security issues and things like that. All right. Could this movie still be made today?
I think so.
Yeah. Is there anything in there that you found problematic? I guess that should be the question.
I feel like the doctor-nurse relationship was a little strange.
Why?
I just felt like at first he was acting so much older than her, and it was a little strange. Almost oh, it's okay, trying to help her out, as if she was so much younger than him. Because
she was crying when he first saw her.
Yeah.
Because she got yelled at by another doctor. He was trying to console her.
Or he looks at her teeth with his hand, when she gets her braces off. I thought it was all very much an older figure, taking care of or being nice to a younger person. It didn't really seem like a romantic relationship until all of a sudden they started kissing.
No, you can tell that she was a cutie pie and he was going to try to hook up with her.
I don't know, but the way that he was acting wasn't all that flirtatious. It was more he was trying to be older and consoling and wise.
This is late 60s, early 70s. I would say a lot of the time men at that time were older than women, obviously, when they got married. But I would also say they were more of a father figure than times now. I think the father was kind of the patriarch of the house, and it was kind of in charge of everybody. So not that the mom and the dad were equal. I don't think that's how it was back then. But if anything, the dad was kind of not the boss, but the dominant person in the relationship. I think that kind of behavior was normal. And I would say that a lot of the girls, because people are girls always marry their fathers, that you always hear that saying,
Mm-hmm.
I think that it was a thing back then more so than now, where the relationship was very one-sided, where the man was more of the fatherly figure for the whole family, not just the kids.
Yeah, because I thought it was weird. He did kind of seem fatherly at the beginning of their relationship. The way that he acted with her.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, I think he was putting on airs to get in.
Well, obviously, but I felt it was very a very quick change.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think when he got to know her and they got to know each other.
So I thought that was a little weird.
Yeah.
I also feel his original sentence being 12 years is kind of crazy. Only 12 years.
Well, he never hurt anyone.
But how many millions of dollars?
$2.5 million, I think they said. Something like that. But who did he steal it from? The banks. I would say I don't see that as a crime that deserves that much years. If he kills someone, don't you think they would be way more than that?
Well, I thought that
the whole he's robbing someone in their house, armed robbery. He's just faking checks. I don't know. Everyone that I've ever met in my life has bounced a check on accident. It's a normal thing. Now, if you do it all the time and you're stealing money, that's okay. But it happens. So I know no one that's killed someone or that's done an armed robbery. Never have I ever. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Fake checks.
I don't know. know. I feel like the whole like evading the police and forcing them to go on a huge hunt for years and years.
He didn't tell him to chase. He actually told Carl, "Don't chase me." I don't know. I'm just saying they're stealing money from banks who are insured by the government. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, but the whole like
you know how much
fraud,
money
like doctor fraud.
Yes.
Lawyer fraud, Pam Am,
well,
pilot
the lawyer,
fraud.
he passed the bar. If he did pass the bar, he's good. I would say Pan Am, he just got free rides.
But like for a doctor.
Yeah. Okay. The doctor, yeah, because definitely you could kill someone, right? All right. What else?
But I'm just saying, like, pretending, like, what is it? Impersonating?
I mean, it's the doc. You're impersonating a doc. We do it every Halloween, man. I impersonate a different person.
I know, but like, it's like identity fraud.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, obviously it's, I don't know. I mean, it's a victimless crime. I don't know. I mean, there is no victimless crime, right? Because in the federal banks and then the banks charge you more interest, blah, 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 blah. But the point being is, I don't know. Those banks get a lot of money. You know how much I pay in interest for our house? So much. Thousands upon millions. Okay, maybe not millions, but a lot of money. They make a lot of money off of me. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm not a banker. I don't know. What else do you see in your notes there?
I don't know, but I said timed suntans sound like skin cancer. I don't really know what the context between that is.
Probably at that pool party, people were putting on suntan lotion. They were like cooking.
Oh, yeah, and they had timers.
And then so that we could turn around.
Yeah.
Like a turkey in the oven, like you gotta turn it over. That's pretty funny.
That's all I have in my notes.
Did it pass the Bechdel test?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
The Bechdel test is the test to check for female representation in movies. There are 3 criteria. Criteria number 1, are there 2 or more named females?
Yeah. There's the mom. There's all the women that he dates. Most of them have names.
Yeah. Criteria number 2, do they talk to each other?
Nope. I don't think so.
Yeah, I do not think they talk to each other. It does not pass the Bechdel test. A lot of beautiful girls in this movie. A lot of famous actresses.
They do talk to each other because the girl that he's going to marry talks to her mom at the dinner table, but she only says, like, see, Mom, like, he's such a great guy.
Yeah, so maybe a better guy. All right, anything else before we move on?
No.
Thank you for tuning in to Papi Approved Movies.
If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast app or like our podcast on YouTube. If you watched all the way to the end, comment down below the pilot emoji.
We put out an episode every Monday.
If you want to see extra podcast content, follow our TikTok at Papi Approved Movies.
If you want to suggest a movie for us to watch and critique,
email us at papiapprovedmovies@gmail.com.
That's papiapprovedmovies@gmail.com. No spaces, no caps.
We'll try our best to get to your suggestion.
And remember, it has to be PG-13.
I'll be back in 2 weeks to watch Hackers.
I'm Papi.
And I'm Natalie.
See you next time.
Bye.